Hallo und guten Abend. Herzlich willkommen zum Untranslatable podcast. If you couldn't understand me, that's because that might be a slight disadvantage that you haven't learned a language yet. We are here doing episode 15. Welcome to the Untranslatable podcast. Our topic for the day is the disadvantages of learning a language. Jared and I are here to try to discover and discuss some of the facets and really crucial disadvantages of learning a language today. Brought to you by tons of humor, sarcasm, and other random insights. I'm here with my amazing co-host, Jared. How are you, buddy?
Bonjour. Je m'appelle Jared. J'habite au Philadelphia. And if you didn't understand that, that's because I was like, I got to do something. I was like, I can't do German because he just did that.
Right.
So I thought...
you made that French sound pretty clean. I mean, I'm no French speaker, but it sounded good to my ears.
Oh, thank you. Merci. First of all, please, everyone, follow us on Twitter at Untranslatable1. Chad was just telling me that we're moving up in the world.
That's right.
I got a retweet the other day. I think that's what they call going viral or something like that.
Oh, man.
So that's pretty crazy.
Famous.
Instagram is Untranslatable Podcast. You can see some of my travels around New Orleans. If you refer back to our On the Road Again episode, you'll put some pictures to those memories, and I even have some more that I'll probably put up. But I didn't want to just blast everyone at once.
You know though, Jared, those were awful PG. I was very surprised.
Well, I'm trying to present a family-friendly podcast for everyone. And I did go to.
I like it.
I mean, by the way, you say it was PG. It's clearly been a while since you've been to a Waffle House. Those places are R-rated levels of disgusting.
Did you what kind of things did you see? This was your first time ever at a Waffle House, right?
Yes.
Oh man.
And it wasn't gross, actually. But it was just I'd use the word grimy more than gross.
What's the difference between grimy and gross?
Like, there was just the feeling of gross in the air and dirtiness in the air.
Okay.
But, like, it presented clean enough. But like, there was also, it felt like there was kind of like a layer of something on everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, when you sat, you're like, all right, this chair is clean, and I'm not getting anything on me, but it does still feel like I'm sitting on a layer of 45-year-old grease or something like that. Right. That's been so coagulated that now it's worked itself into part of the cushioning mechanism of this bench.
Right.
But, I just got eggs and your standard stuff. What was kind of disappointing was I at least thought the eggs would be better. Eggs. I at least thought the waffles would be some special waffle. It tasted like an upgraded Eggo. Like,
really?
It was better than an Eggo, but it tasted like where Eggo, like how it tasted like an Eggo, but better, like a homemade Eggo.
That's an interesting way to describe a waffle.
It was better. But it did have just reminded me of Eggo waffle, and I was like, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And I was like, it was good, but this is, the waffle. As far as the waffle goes, it was good, but not worth it. Bacon, shitty. Eggs were fine because eggs are eggs, but
okay. So was the bacon like just not crispy? It was kind of floppy, or
no? It was just a bad cut of bacon.
Okay.
Where I don't know if
you gotta get them prime cuts.
I don't know what was off about it. I felt like it was maybe, I don't know, just not good bacon.
Too chewy, or
yes.
Okay.
Maybe.
So I got a question though for you, Jared, about Waffle House, because I think I've only been to them once or twice. But I was talking to a friend of mine, and they mentioned that Waffle House is kind of like the Walmart of diners. Would you agree with that statement?
The Walmart of diners. No. One, because I think you need a better representation of a diner. Like you know what? I'd say more like Cracker Barrel is the Walmart of diners. One,
really?
Cracker Barrel is everywhere.
Okay.
Waffle House is not everywhere. In America, obviously.
That's true.
And two... never mind. I was about to say, I
feel like you're going to get some heated Cracker Barrel people. They're going to be writing into us.
I'm not saying I dislike Cracker Barrel. I'm just not... I'm just... There's a very different crowd between, Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a very specific crowd of people that goes into Cracker Barrels. and they
Probably Waffle Houses too,
they
though.
probably go into Waffle Houses after. You know what? I'll give you this. Cracker Barrel is Walmart on a Saturday at 2 p.m, prime shopping time.
Okay. Oh, okay.
But then it's also Waffle House at that 24-hour Walmart at midnight.
Yes. Or like 2 a.m. I know exactly.
Or there's
what
like a
you're
guy
talking
in
about.
June in a Santa costume.
And a lady with her bikini on backwards or something. Like, yeah, you see the weirdest pictures of stuff like that at Walmart. Yeah, that's true. I feel like it's always entertaining though to be at places late at night, regardless where it is. It's usually going to be highly entertaining. You know?
Yes, I'm starting to I go into Walmarts every now and again, and I'll tell you why. One, because there's really only one reason, but there's one on the way to my piano lessons. So sometimes, like if I drive there and I get there early, I was like, I got to stop in there either to pee or to get some random thing, and I'm starting to feel almost a little bad for Walmart, because I feel like, first of all, Amazon is the new Walmart.
Okay.
And Walmarts are starting to feel like they're going the way of like a Kmart or something whenever I walk in there.
Ooh, that's not good. For those of you who don't know, Kmart, didn't they go bankrupt and they're out of business now?
Yeah, there's like I actually, when I lived in Pueblo 5 years ago, I saw there was one in my area. It must have been one solo trooper that was continuing on, because I do believe like the actual Kmart is out of business. But there
I thought so too.
I bet you that one's probably closed now. I never went into it, but it was definitely open. But yes, it's a now defunct, like Walmart-esque store. You know, your grocery store plus situation. And so whenever I walk in there, I'm like, man, it's getting a little barren, a little quiet in here. Mm-hmm. And
that's true. And I've seen that a little bit too.
And but although they do, I believe they do also have online stuff. I have some more relationship.
You're breaking up with me, Jared?
This is the final podcast. I was thinking about some other post-vacation situations or feelings. Okay. Because I realized I realized on the flight back that I'm always like a little depressed on the plane, and on like for like the day when I get home, I'm always like, well, all right, well that's over, and it's all, and I also always kind of think back onto, like, especially if it was like a trip where there was like partying involved, I always kind of look back and thought like, oh, I could have done more, or like I could have done that. It's like, oh, I'm like, well, that's no way to live life. After a trip that was fun, by the way. There's been like, oh, I could have done that, or I could have done that, because I had a lot of fun. I didn't even go to sleep the next. Oh,
can you remind our listeners where you were and what you were doing?
I was in New Orleans for my sister's wedding. She's now a Tillman. No longer part of the best family in the world. That's okay. And I just got back yesterday. Oh. When I got back, so as I mentioned, I briefly mentioned I didn't sleep at all the final night. Mm-hmm. I had one of those.
Were you raging?
Not raging, but me and Brad stayed out till you and I have been in a similar situation actually in Europe.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
When you hear it, you'll. Okay. I don't know if you want to talk about it though.
The off-air edition. Oh my god!
But I can explain this version of it. I'll talk about it right now.
Yeah, let's explain.
But so anyway, we were just. I mean, there's so many good live bands. You can just go from live band to live band and hop. It's so great. But anyway,
with your daiquiris to go, right?
Yes, but that's a don't. That's a post. I didn't do this because I've learned from past trips, but that is a post New Orleans don't that I am reminded, because I actually had to mention it to Brad.
Slow it down?
No, not slow it down, but mention that we probably shouldn't have daiquiris, because daiquiris is not a good drink to party with, because like you can't drink a lot of
sugar
daiquiris. Exactly.
Yeah.
It was more beer and a little whiskey. Those are better drinks to party with than I think a daiquiri. But So yeah, we stayed up all night, and because we were just essentially in the bar until about like maybe 2.
What times do the bars close there?
Later than that. I
Oh
don't know.
wow,
I
because
don't
they
know.
close at 2 in Michigan. Which
Right.
is kind of
It's
lame.
definitely later than that. And so we were at the bar, and we got home around like we were gonna get home around like 3. So say we left the bar at 2:30, we're gonna walk back. So we're like, well, first of all, I had been telling everyone all weekend that my plane left at 12 or like 12 or 2. I was like, yeah, it's around noon or 2 or something. It's fine. My plane left at 5:50.
Oh wow.
And so so it was like 2:33, and I was like, what, am I gonna sleep for an hour?
Right.
And so we bought cigars and literally across the street from the hotel there was a bar that was closed because we were in the city but kind of like in a quieter area, and their seats were still outside, so we just sat outside and smoked cigars and chatted and drank
Sounds
water.
pretty
and Gatorade.
gemütlich.
It was quite gemütlich. And then when I left, I was feeling a little bumped. I was like, man, that was a good time. Now I got to go back to my shitty life.
Except for those couple hours a week when we're podcasting.
Exactly. So now we're going to
But-
be just a 24-hour podcast, Chad and I.
Exactly.
Until
Are we becoming the Walmart of podcasts? Is that what that means?
You know what? I'll take it. They had a good run.
Right. Well, they're not done yet. You never know.
That's true. They could have a resurgence on the internet. Maybe they'll find their way on the dark web or something.
For sure. For sure. But I agree with you, though, about the end of kind of traveling sadness. I'm surprised. We'll have to look and see. I bet you there's a word in another language that
I'm sure
describes
there
it.
is.
There has to be.
You personally have had like 4 different words for anxiety before a trip.
A lot of them were from German.
So there's got to be. But I have that. But I also, although not really on this one because it was pretty short, but like I also on a lot of trips am very excited to get back.
I feel like that's true, but it also depends how long the trip is, right?
That's
I feel like
true.
if it's longer than a week, I'm usually looking forward to getting home. But if it's a couple of days, I'm like, I could use another maybe day or two.
The only reason I was excited to come home is because I knew, that was the one good part about my flight being at 5:50. I got home around 10:30.
And
I did not
slept?
go to work that day. Well, I was about to sleep. When I was driving home, it was raining pretty hard, and within about 10 minutes of me getting home, I hear just this water. I was like, what is that? Did I leave something on downstairs? And there was a pipe in my laundry room that is just straight up shooting out water. Like it's a pipe that usually I think it's like an extra drainage pipe, and it's a
Okay.
pipe that usually just feeds a little bit of water to it. But and so it's also exposed at one spot where there's like a gap between it, and it was just blasting water to the point where like it couldn't hold it couldn't keep up with the amount that was going through it.
Right.
And so it started flooding a little bit. And I just found out today when I got home that I was lucky. So for me, what happened, it got a little into my bathroom, which is right on the other connecting wall. And I was super nervous because it started, by the way, that means it got out of the laundry room. That room was filled with water.
Oh, man.
And all tile, by the way. Which
That's
helps
good,
also.
though. Yeah, that's good.
And my bathroom obviously also towel. I moved the blanket, the mats out of there or whatnot. But it could have also gone to in the other direction, which is where I had a gigantic area rug in my sofa and stuff like that. That's where my living room is. So it could have gone right there, and that would have been way worse. And I found out that happened to my neighbor today because I walked past her when I got home from work.
The one with the terrorizing dog?
No, a different neighbor.
Okay.
No, they're lucky them. They had no problem because they live above me. So
Of course they don't. Well, hey, I got good news for you. When you come visit me in the Czech Republic, you won't have to worry about flooding because I'll be on the top floor.
right, just like building collapses and stuff. And no, I'm kidding.
Right.
But yeah. So that was a fun little nightmare. So I didn't nap either, but I did go to bed at like and then also, but So it did eventually end, but the streets were legitimately like river status of water.
Oh wow.
But it
crazy.
but it eventually ended, and this was in the mid afternoon. Maybe it started around 11 and probably went until like 4. The raining 4 or 5, and then if we would have looked outside, it would have looked like nothing happened. Besides, for there were weird pockets of giant amounts of debris just from the water, like outside and in my place actually. But other than that, like it was nice out later, and I was like, "Fuck you."
That's always how it goes, Jared.
I know. I mean,
how life has gotta be.
has to end eventually.
All good things must come to an end, but
Yeah,
also
like
good
the
things
flooding of
must
my
begin. Right. Right, for sure. Yeah, what can you do? Well, one thing you can do is learn some foreign untranslatable phrases to express your newfound frustration and anger from walking into your flooded basement.
Oh
Jared,
my God! Please,
What?
I have a perfect segue for my first one. I was.
Go for
I
it.
forgot what
Go
it
for
was. You can release your frustration, Chad. You're right. But what you can also do is fakak men nafsak, which is Egyptian Arabic.
Okay. Can you say it again?
Fakak men nafsak. If you don't want to release you can release the anger, but
Okay.
sometimes the anger also has to. Sometimes you just have to.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Is that like you just
No,
have
I'll
to
just,
you have
go
to
ahead.
let it go?
Chad. Oh fuck, I didn't have it up.
Yes. Many fregista.
Yeah, it means the actual translation is unscrew yourself from yourself.
Oh, interesting.
And what the phrase, what it essentially saying is to let things go or be carefree.
So also it'd be a many fregista.
And I'll tell you, at some point, I really did have to say
many fregista.
because I was fucking exhausted, and so because not only was I tired just from the fact that I pulled all nighter, and I was probably still a little drunk, but but I had then been running through my house trying to like get everything fixed and in order, and so I'd been running for like 2 hours just around, just frantic. And then so at 3 o'clock, even though there was still like a pool of water in my place, I was like, all right, it stopped raining. There's nothing I can do. I'm at least falling asleep for like 2 hours, and I just had to nap from 3 to 5. I was like, I can't do this. It's done. It's done.
I don't blame you.
I just had to fakak men nafsak. I just had to unscrew myself from myself and be like, fuck it.
It's nap time.
Many fregista.
I don't blame you. All right, Jared. Well, I got one for you, and this would have been very helpful for you after you had taken your nap maybe and finished picking things up. This word is Swedish, and it is, I believe it's Fika, Fika. I would assume it's Fika, but it could be Fika. I don't know.
Does that mean to like unwind?
Kind of. Can you like half hit the ham horn on that one?
No.
It's so I think it's Fika, and it means gathering together to talk and take a break from everyday routines, either at a cafe or at home, often for hours on end.
Wait, can you read that again? Sorry.
Yes.
I think I blacked
So
out there for a
Fika,
second. I don't know.
Swedish. You're good. Fika, Swedish, gathering together to talk and take a break from everyday routines, either at a cafe or at home, often for hours on end.
Okay. Well, so I think it would be unwind if it takes itself 2 hours on end. Then you've reached the point where you're unwinding.
Right. That's true. Good point.
But I'd say unwinding also is yeah, you're right. That is yeah. I wish I could half hit that ham horn.
Right.
Fika. Is there a direct translation for it, or is that the?
Putting me on the spot. I like it, Jared. Let me see. 1 second.
How do you spell it?
Fika.
Fika. Muta Fika.
Oh, jeez.
I'm a child.
Oh, jeez. This is why we can't have nice things, Jared.
Well, you'll only get that if you're bilingual or not.
Oh, whoa. Apparently it also means coffee.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Fika. Coffee? That's what it says here.
It means coffee,
Maybe-
everyone.
Maybe though it means maybe just because they're saying coffee, they're kind of like, oh, here we go. So I just Googled it. This is coming from SwedishFood.com. So thank you, Swedish Food. Fika is a concept, a state of mind, an attitude, an important part of Swedish culture. So one major advantage of knowing a language, right, is understanding these cultural things. Many Swedes consider that it is almost essential to make time for Fika every day. It means making time for friends and colleagues to share a cup of coffee or tea and have a little something to eat. That sounds really nice, dude. I wish we had that here.
Yeah. I could use that. I'm not especially interesting that they mention colleagues. Because I don't think I'm like, I'm definitely not good at unwinding or having casual conversation with colleagues. I can. It's gotten a little easier, especially since they're closer to my age these days. But still not good at it. There's still like always in the back of my head a slight little filter, yes, but also all right, let's not get too. We don't need to talk too much about what's going on in my life here.
That's fair. Well, I was just gonna say I think it's different too. I feel like if you've been working a place for a really long time, maybe you can experience Fika,
right?
But it might maybe take a while,
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, give me one of your other untranslatables, Jared.
Well, I have one more. I have other ones, but I have one more Egyptian Arabic one.
Nice.
By the way, I want to ask you a quiz question because my mind was blown by this earlier today, but I just realized I don't know the answer. I'm gonna have to look it up, but I can look it up.
Uh-oh. 3 to 4 months of podcasting research down the toilet, Jared.
Well, the phrase is di harakat nos kom. Oh yeah, that's right. You don't.
Yeah, I don't speak Arabic. Unfortunately,
these are short-sleeved movements.
So they're I don't know, they're like not well thought out movements, or I don't know. You tell me.
These are what did I say? Oh yeah, these are short-sleeve movements means that someone is.
You have more room to move?
No.
Okay.
It means that although if you want to keep guessing, this is fun. I don't want to stifle you.
Well, I'm trying to think of any other options.
These are short-sleeved
movements. You said.
Yes. That person is making some short-sleeve movements right there.
Oh, is it like doing some shady things? Some shady stuff?
Woo! There you go.
All right. Wasn't first guess, though, so it doesn't get a double that's for sure. But yeah, okay, that makes sense.
To you a little bit.
I would think, though, it would be long sleeve movements because you can hide stuff in your long sleeves, right? So I wonder why it's short sleeved.
That's a good point.
Interesting.
Maybe this is a guess. Now I'm going off on my own here. Don't hold me to that. Maybe it's a thing where it's like, well, if you're business people, you wear suits or something, or you're wearing something that's long sleeves. Okay. And it's like, why is this person here with this
short sleeve? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Get out of here, you short sleeves.
That's a shady shirt you got there,
right,
Chief. What are you trying to sell us?
I guess I shouldn't be wearing any short-sleeved shirts when I go travel to Egypt and need to do business, huh?
Well, I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
I work for not like a super formal company or anything. Like it's not that fancy, but we were interviewing people a couple of weeks ago, and there were three people that were interviewing. 2 of them wore suits, 1 of them wore khakis and a polo. Oh, and after the interview, we all we're all like, hey, did you
see the guy in the khakis?
And apparently one of my coworkers said to him in the interview, he was like, wow, you look comfortable.
Oh my God, dude, that is savage. Getting roasted at your job interview. That's great. Oh my God.
What if I just bust open the door? Oh, I'm making the noise with my mouth and I have it right here.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, no, he didn't.
That's hilarious, dude. Who wears a polo? And I'm sorry, I have suited up for almost every job interview, or at least dress slacks, dress shirt, blazer.
The only time I've worn a polo and a in khakis to an interview was when I was interviewing for a golf course.
Oh, nice.
I felt a suit felt like too much.
That might be a little too much. Yeah, you gotta know your place.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Jared, though, if you're wearing a short sleeve in an environment where everyone else is wearing long sleeves, you could say that some people need a bit of WabiSabi, which is Japanese. WabiSabi.
See, I've come across this in my travels through the untranslatable woods, but
Okay.
I do not know what it is. But I definitely have seen that before. Because
Okay.
whenever the reason I remember it so well is because whenever I see it, I always think wasabi in my head, but the way it has like a hyphen in the middle of it, it was like, oh, that's not how you spell wasabi. I was like, oh, that's because that's a different word.
Right. Oh, definitely. All right. Well, do you have any guesses? I don't know if I'm trying to look and see if there's any way I can give you clues. It's hard with, I think, some of these, Japanese and Mandarin and other languages where, I don't see any way where I can.
Definitely something I've noticed is that the farther you get away from languages that relate to ours, English and whatnot,
Right.
the less translation there is for a lot of the phrases, which
Yeah,
is
it's
obvious. I
fascinating.
guess it makes sense now that we do this too. It's like, well, of course.
Mm-hmm. I've learned a lot, actually, just from doing
me
this
too.
podcast with you. It's been
because a lot of time also when I find them, they explain fun little stories about how it came about. And
oh, that's the best part. Those little hidden golden nuggets of info there for sure.
There's definitely been one or two that I've just casually dropped in a conversation. Like, oh yeah, well, there's this one saying,
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I just happened to hear this one time.
I hope we all can just start using these words effortlessly. I wish I could talk tonight in our own kind of conversations. It'd be pretty cool. But anyways, Jared, sadly I have no way to assist you here with WabiSabi, but what I can tell you is WabiSabi, and I don't even know if I'm saying it right. So any of our Japanese speaking listeners out there, shoot us an email at untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com and let me know how to actually pronounce this. But anyways,
you are. Because especially since it's written
phonetically, yeah,
right. A lot of times the Japanese words tend to be spelled pretty phonetically.
I would agree with that. However, word stress, my friend. I don't know if I'm stressing it right.
Oh,
maybe there's
that's
like
true. And that's even more important in
a lot of different languages for sure.
Yeah.
Stress and tone is more Mandarin.
Although I guess not more. But I
yeah.
just realized how important it was for English a couple weeks.
Oh
ago.
yeah. Well, didn't I tell you in one of our previous episodes? Depending on the word, like project and project, depending on the way you stress, it's a different word completely.
Different words.
Yeah, blows people's minds when I tell them that. Yet they use it in their everyday lives all the time, and they don't even think about it. Yeah, but anyways, WabiSabi is the art of imperfection, or the view of being centered on the acceptance of transience and imperfection.
So explain that to me a little bit more.
Okay, so
Does
basically,
it mean you embrace, because I hear two things. You almost obsess over your imperfections, or you are calm. You are calmed, like you reach a calm with them, or something. I think
it's more so. If you look at some other translations, I found one translation that said, "Finding beauty in imperfections."
Okay.
But I also think,
and I think, go ahead.
Accepting and tolerating your imperfections will maybe lead you on a path to finding beauty in them as well.
Right, and then because once you see them in yourself, you then see them, like you understand them, and it starts with understanding your own imperfections before you can truly understand other people, I think.
Oh, definitely.
All right, I got another one for you. This one is Filipino, and the phrase is "kapit sa patalim," with I don't know exactly.
I don't know either. Can you tell me what those words mean?
Hold on to the sharp edge of a blade.
Oh, a lot of imagery going on after that one. Hold on to the sharp edge. Is that like willing to sacrifice something for something else?
I think that deserves a triple horn. What they technically say it means is that if someone is in a situation so desperate that they'll do anything to survive, But I think that's essentially what you
that
said.
makes sense.
That's what you said.
Yeah, but that's a little more extreme, I think, than what I said. But that's like making
it's
a
like an
serious
extremely
sacrifice.
dire situation where it's
It's
like
kind
at
of
this
like
point I'll do anything.
right, exactly. Like you have to steal in order to survive. Or I get that. All right, I got. I want to give you a couple all in one, if that's okay, Jared.
Okay.
Because these are German, and I think you'll know what most of the words mean.
But
But I want to just hit you. I just want to hit you with all three of these.
Okay.
So the first one is extra Wunsch.
Extra wish.
Uh-huh. But you use this to describe a person. I'll tell you that much. Extra Wunsch.
See, I feel like that's when my first thing.
Sei kein extra Wunsch, Jared. Wir haben heute viel zu tun.
Oh, okay. It means be serious and get down to business then. Or or is that? It sounds like what you're saying. It's because it said stop with all the extra Wunsch. We need to.
Or don't be an extra Wunsch. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I led you down the wrong path with my example. Extra Wunsch is basically a person who slows things down by being extra fussy, which leads to simple tasks and activities taking longer, being delayed, and more complicated.
Yeah, I didn't think.
So
you're
that
fussy.
person sitting there.
That's what it is.
You're totally fussy, Jared. But yeah, so it makes sense, right? So
Right.
it's like
Right.
the example that this one, I found this really cool website that had a bunch of really good German ones. And I like to do German ones with you because you know what the individual words are usually, so you have a better chance.
But I rarely.
But some of them are different.
That rarely means I actually know the phrase.
Oh, that's all right though.
Which is the fun part of the Untranslatables.
Exactly. And so the example here says weddings typically draw the extra Wunsch populace out. They want extra pampering. Nothing is good enough for them.
Of like the groom and bride, you mean?
Yep.
I gotcha.
And it is only the demands of hospitality that prevent the host from throttling the pesky extra Wunsch. So
right.
don't be that extra Wunsch.
Yes.
And then the next one I have for you, and this is a kind of like Fika for Swedish. This is a really big cultural thing in Germany. I feel like they talk about this a lot. Die innere Schweinehund.
The inner pig dog?
Yeah. So you got all the words individually. Now, what do you think your innere Schweinehund is?
Like your inner. Like I feel like it's almost like give it your best, or like no. He's
like the
Chad's
opposite.
shaking his head no right now.
It's like the opposite of that. It's the absolute opposite of that. So your innere Schweinehund is that like voice I would say kind of call it like our bad conscience maybe, or it's that voice that's saying like, oh, just hit the snooze button for 5 more minutes.
Okay.
Or, oh, you don't have to go to the gym today, just go tomorrow.
I think when I heard Schweine, because Schwein is pig makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But when I heard Schweinehund, I was thinking like some sort of hunting dog, like some sort of active dog that's like.
Okay.
Or I thought of someone that's like
That makes
super
sense.
brave or go getter, like a.
Right. I think this term actually shows. I think in German you can actually really offend people by calling them animal names, and I think there's this thing.
They definitely use Schwein way more than we do. Like
for sure.
People call people pigs as insult here, but it's not that common.
I think sadly here it's usually like kind of pointed towards the
thing.
police.
Oh.
When you say pigs, right?
Right.
Or if you say like you're eating like such a pig, right?
Right, that's what I was thinking. But yeah. It's.
But anyways, yeah. So it's more like it's just that tiny voice in the back of your head that's trying to convince you to like not do stuff, not overcome things, and just be lazy, right?
Okay, I got you.
Because I mean, if you think about it, like pigs are pretty lazy, really.
Yep.
So are dogs.
Yeah.
You combine them, maybe you get this ultra lazy creature. I don't even know.
There's some untranslatable in English about dogs being lazy, isn't there?
Probably. I don't know. Putting me on the spot. I don't know.
I mean, clearly I don't know it either. Oh, you have one more, don't you?
Yes. My last one for you, and this is my last one for today's episode, is Fremdschämen. Fremdschämen.
I don't know if I know what shaman means, but fremd is foreign.
Schämen is to shame.
Oh, okay.
Fremdschämen.
Is it so? It means to shame foreign. I mean, that's a direct translation.
You kind of Fremdschämen
Or like
it roughly
be picky?
translates to exterior shame. I don't know if that'll help you, but keep guessing. Exterior shame.
Oh, when I hear phlegmed, I think foreign.
Well, it can mean foreign, but it can also
okay.
mean exterior.
Is it like ashamed of your body or something?
Not quite. It is actually fremshamen is when you kind of like when you cringe because of somebody else like making a fool of themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Fremshamen describes the feeling of shame when seeing someone else in an uncomfortable or embarrassing situation.
See, when I hear now, it makes more sense. Now it makes more sense, but it makes more sense as the German word to me now.
Right. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, now I get that. Sounds way better in German.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, fremshamen. I feel like whenever I watch The Office, I get all sorts of just fremshamen.
Yeah, that's what that show is
all
made
about.
Like, yeah, they popularized the cringe too.
Right.
People love
Yes,
cringe moments.
Especially
like
that
awkward,
Scott's Tots episode.
And the awkward
yeah.
came from them.
Right.
I can give you one more. I have around
That'd
real
be
quick.
great, yeah.
One more Filipino one. This is bakal sa loob.
And what does that word or phrase mean?
Natural to the insides.
Natural to the insides. So, natural to the insides. Is that like something that's just like, something that's counterintuitive?
Natural to the insides. No.
So,
It's almost.
I have no idea.
Actually, the complete opposite.
Okay.
It's something so intuitive that it's natural to
makes-
the insides.
So it just makes so much sense.
Like it's just it means if you're doing well, actually, that's not actually really what it means. But I mean, think about it though. What it's saying is that natural to the insides. I don't control anything happening here. What I'm doing, but what natural to insides means is that you're doing it out of your own will and not because you're forced to. And I think what they're saying is, like,
that's great.
Your
I like
insides
that.
do things. They just do it not because they're told to, not
Right.
because they have to. That's just what happens.
Okay.
And I think so. It's like for example, I don't mind if you don't. Oh yeah. So it's essentially saying, yeah, you're doing something because you want to.
Oh, that's great. I like that. It's natural from the insides, huh?
Right. Right.
Okay.
You know what's
Makes
also
sense.
natural to the insides?
What's that?
When I speak German, it's just so fluid and smooth. You know why?
Why is that?
It's because I'm bilingual. Actually, I'm not bilingual. We just had a long conversation.
We did. We had a
before the
discussion.
podcast about how I'm not.
Let's put this out there actually and ask our listeners and see what they think. So Jared and I were having a discussion earlier about the term bilingual and how it's used and how it's defined and there can be a lot of different definitions for it. The easy and simple definition that I think many people, especially in the United States, use is bilingual is people who speak two languages.
I honestly, by the way, would not consider myself bilingual. I think I'm good at German and I'm conversational. And I can get around very well,
Okay.
and I can talk, pretty comfortably. But I don't think my grammar or vocabulary. I don't think I'd put that up. When I say bilingual, I'd say bilingual.
You mean
I
like
expect,
fluent in two languages,
Right.
like almost
Right.
native speaker level in both. Yeah.
Yes.
That's that's fair, and I mean, depending on how you define it, maybe it is that. So, to all our listeners out there, what does bilingual mean to you, and how do you define it? But yeah, so we were talking about a lot
You
of
didn't say how
different.
you defined it though.
Well, so I was getting to it. Sorry, lost my train of thought there. So the way I tend to define it is usually like if you grow up speaking two languages. But that's only one definition. It can mean so much more than that as well. That's the difficulty with language is, it can be very limiting depending on how you use it. And I feel like that can be kind of a limiting definition because it could also be someone who speaks two languages fluently, right? It doesn't mean that they learn them necessarily as a child, right?
And I have a friend that my buddy Mick, he was from Japan and is Japanese. And he was obviously, he was was fluent, whatever. But he used to always talk about how there's this one Japanese teacher at our school, but she was German. And he was like, when he speaks to her, he's always like, damn, she knows. It's like her Japanese is better than mine.
Oh wow.
But his English was as level of. Would you call him bilingual? Because he was fluent, but he wasn't perfect at it.
But he also speaks other languages, right?
Well, yeah, he spoke English fluently. As
English, Japanese, and probably a little German, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
I
he
would
moved there when I did, so he was my level.
I would say he might be on the cusp of being like more of a multilingual person. I don't know though, man. Like,
But once you get multilingual,
I
is
think if you
multilingual
can,
and poly. So would I say I'm multilingual because if I could speak two languages and they're not, and it's one of them's not native.
Once again, here's the thing: it's all how you define it. I should have prepared myself and had like some definition set, but my 3 to 4 months of podcast prep work was based more on the disadvantages of learning a language.
Fair. I like that you stay on topic when you
right.
you do these.
But well, sometimes I go into little rabbit holes, but don't we all?
Of course.
But yeah, so I don't know. I think multilingual could be. The way I think some people use it is as someone who can speak, bits and pieces of a lot of different languages. They might be really fluent in 1 or 2 of them, or even 3 of them, but they're not afraid to, when they're traveling, they learn enough to get them by maybe. And on top of that, they might speak 1 or 2 languages already, if not more. To me, that's kind of multilingual, but I'm not really sure. I'm going to have to look up these definitions and get back to you on all of that stuff. But
Please.
I think
we can have a whole episode about that.
I think we can. I think we actually should. That'd be an interesting talk. But anyways, I think one of the where were we going with this? Sorry, I got so.
Oh, I just accidentally said bilingual about German. We weren't going anywhere.
Oh, that's right. Okay, good. We weren't going anywhere.
We hadn't even started yet.
Well, then I guess I'll take it there. So we are discussing today the disadvantages of learning a language, and if you heard the raise in my voice there, that was done for a reason. I know, believe it or not, I do know how to speak English sometimes. And I think what's interesting is to look at, we often talk about advantages of learning a language and things like that. But the question is, are there disadvantages? If there are, what are they? What are some of the pros and cons to learning languages? That's one thing we're going to discuss, and we're also going to discuss a little bit later how language learning has benefited and changed our lives. Talk about some of our own personal advantages and disadvantages. But first, Jared, did you have either a question or a quiz for me or something?
No.
Oh, damn. All right.
I had stuff to talk about. I don't have a particular question or quiz.
Well, then that's great. Tell me what you got to talk about.
Well, I do. I can make a quiz if you want, real quick. Now that I think about it,
okay.
I wasn't planning this being a quiz, but I might be able to turn this into a quiz real quick.
Alrighty.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to do this on the fly.
Well, while you're doing that, can I discuss some things?
Yeah.
So for our topic today, the disadvantages of learning a language. One of the things that kind of brought us to this idea was thinking about all the different ways that learning a language has really changed the way we think, all sorts of different things. But it wasn't all, believe it or not, a bed of sunshine and roses. There were a lot of difficult things we had to overcome. Culture shock. Obviously, it's not necessarily always cheap to learn a language. And those are a few examples to name a couple, but I think there's a lot that can be said too, though, about for every negative there is a positive. So we'll also be discussing some of the pros or advantages to learning a language as well. So do you have your quiz ready for me, Jared?
Yeah. I wanted to. I had some quiz questions about some different languages.
Great.
So first of all, I mean, some of these are obvious, but I still going to throw them out there. Mm-hmm. What is the most spoken language in the world?
Well, I would assume population-wise it would have to be Mandarin, right?
Yes. Although they say Chinese and include Mandarin and Cantonese together.
Okay.
Oh, no, actually it includes... Oh! Do you know... Apparently, have you heard of Sinitic languages?
No, that sounds interesting.
Well, there are apparently 10 of them that make up Chinese.
Oh, interesting.
Mandarin and Cantonese are only among 2 of them.
Okay.
And it's also becoming a rising global, a rising business language as well. That's just because of sheer numbers.
Oh, absolutely. That makes sense.
I work for a car company. I've mentioned this. and we do hybrid battery stuff, and it blew my mind the other day that the biggest battery producer in the world is a company called CATL in China, and they currently, for the time being at least, don't talk to me about this because it could change at any moment, but they currently do no business in America at all, and a big part of Europe. But just because China alone, it's even through like Asia alone, it's still one of the almost biggest, the biggest battery company in the world. And so yeah, I could totally understand that Chinese could be a useful one to learn.
Also, can I just add something too about Chinese? I think many people think it's very difficult to learn Chinese or Mandarin. I think from what I've heard from some of my friends who are English native speakers who have started to learn Chinese, it's actually not that difficult to speak it and understand it. What's difficult about it is the reading and the writing because of the characters.
Right. That's right.
And obviously you have to master the tones. So I think if you have a good ear, if you're musical, or you're good with languages, you'll probably be able to master the tones. But I think some people who are a little tone deaf might have some serious difficulties trying to speak proper Mandarin.
Well, and that's a huge part of learning a language anyway, because that's what I was going to mention earlier was that you started learning German through school and stuff like that, and your dad obviously, but he didn't really teach you anything, did he?
I hate to throw my dad under a bus like this because I love him, but the whole reason why I started German was because I always thought in the back of my head, oh, he can help me with it if I need help with it, right?
Oh, and you never did?
I never really needed his help. I was so motivated to learn it and so excited.
That's just you knowing it. He's not going to...
I guess, but he didn't really help me much with it. We speak it now, and what's funny, though, is sometimes I correct his German.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he loves that.
Yeah, I'm sure he does, too. But it's funny, though, because my dad is like a different guy when he speaks German versus when he speaks English. And I think... that might be another advantage or disadvantage, maybe, depending on how you spin it, of learning another language is I think
He turns very angry. He starts
fighting
people.
Actually, he's the opposite, dude. My dad's like, he seems way more laid back and chill and like cracks jokes and stuff when he speaks German. And you've met my dad. Like when he speaks English, he's pretty quiet.
Right.
And stuff like that. So... yeah, so that's another thing too. But anyways, what's
fun.
your next?
Like it is fun, especially if it's not your language. It's like because I had a short conversation with someone at my work a couple months ago who was from Germany, and someone just put me on the spot. He's like, "Hey, he's from Germany. He lived there for a long time, or he speaks it," and the guy just started speaking to me.
Yes.
And it just came back to me. I was like, there was none of that like I was just speaking it. And first of all, my coworkers were like, "Oh, I didn't know that he could actually speak it."
Nice.
But as I was doing it in my head, I was like, "Oh, I could still do this." It was simple stuff like "Where are you from?" and but I was still like, "Whoa."
It's pretty amazing though how quick that does come back though, isn't it, Jared?
Right.
I always tell people it usually takes me though at least 2 to 3 days of being like in Germany, surrounded by the language, speaking it a lot.
That's not bad.
But then I feel like I can get it back to pretty good.
All right, I got another one for you.
Go for it.
So I mentioned Arabic earlier with my 2 untranslatables.
Mm-hmm.
How many countries quote or state that Arabic is their official language?
Oh wow, their official language? There's going to be a bunch on the continent of Africa. Oh man, I don't know. I would guess 20.
59.
Oh damn, not even close.
Yeah.
Wow, 59. Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Doesn't surprise me. I wonder how many countries out there have Spanish as the official language. That's got to be a ton,
oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean, you got, an entire, essentially, except for Brazil, you got South America.
And then you got Spain.
And then you got Central America, you got Spain.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Arabic still seems like it would be an obvious winner to me over...
probably country-wise, yeah, I would agree.
I think I would have, what is the second most widely learned language in the world?
Second most. Is first English? Or is English second?
Oh, I believe
Or is English not even in the top?
Or I guess it's wait. You might be surprised that English isn't the most commonly spoken language. No, it's the second most common spoken language.
Not spoken. I thought it was learned. I thought that's what you said.
Yes, learned. Excuse me.
Second most learned language.
This one didn't mention what the second one is. It just tells me who the first learned most.
The first one is it's not English?
Maybe it is. It probably is. That would make the most sense.
Okay.
That's probably why I didn't mention it.
Oh, okay. So what was the second?
I can also just tell you. Most.
That's true. Good old Google.
Learned languages instead of us going back and forth. Oh, what is the most learned? Oh, that's in the U.S. I was surprised by that at first.
Yeah, worldwide is probably what you want. But if you do internationally, it probably will be English, maybe. But I could be wrong.
I bet you it is. I mean, because first of all, there are entire countries that. Oh, see that now they're saying spoken. The most learned. That's so specific.
Right.
And now that's only in the U.S. All right, don't worry about it. Tell me the second. Hey, Chad.
What is the second?
Answer the goddamn questions.
I don't know the answer, Jared. That's why I've been stalling. Clearly, my stalling tactic's been working.
The second most learned language is French.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And
not
also
Spanish. Wow.
French is one of the I believe. Well, it says. There's one more fun fact I have about French. Is the only language spoken on all 5 continents.
Okay, that makes sense.
But where in Asia do they speak French? See, why am I doing this?
One of probably French colony. I'm sure they still have either they're an independent colony now, but France invaded them years ago.
Or Guinea technically in
Bro, I don't know here.
Yeah, why are we doing this?
I don't know.
This is so dumb.
You got another one for me?
One more.
Okay.
What is the most widely spoken language in Europe?
In Europe? I think it would. Oh man, I would guess either French, German, or even English maybe.
It is German.
Okay.
And it's the most widely spoken, essentially just because it's the biggest country.
Right.
And
makes
and
sense.
so it's there's the most native people.
Right. And plus all those bordering countries, I'm sure, some of them can speak it as well, but I don't know if that counts in those statistics.
Right. Oh, and this is an interesting one too. Language, this current language is highest in demand?
Probably Chinese, right?
What language? Name another. Yeah, you're right. That's not the answer I was looking for, though. There's another one that's surprisingly high in demand. Not the highest. Did I say the highest?
Yeah, you did. What? I don't know what.
But this has come up on multiple lists that I've seen. So
what is it?
It is Portuguese.
Oh, interesting. I mean, it makes sense. So Brazil's a pretty big country. There's a lot of great culture there. Portugal seems really awesome too.
A booming economy as well. That helps.
Oh,
it does seem like it's more based off of. Oh, this is weird. All right, I got one more for you. Actually, I was gonna say I was done, but I got one more. This is a good one too. But yeah, Portugal I think is so small, but and their economy is not that great. But Brazil does have a booming economy, and they're huge. Their economy is currently the 7th largest in the world. Brazil.
Nice, I believe it.
What is the language most widely used on the internet?
Probably English, right? Or is this a trick question and it's going to be computer language, like coding?
No, I'm not. This is not.
I was hoping you were going to. Not trying to do me like that. I appreciate it, Jared. I don't know. Is it English? I mean, I hate to be so Anglo-central right now.
Russian.
Oh, wow. Oh, interesting.
Although English dominates the internet, making up more than 50% of the content on the web. Oh, excuse me. I'm so dumb. It is English. Russian second. Fuck this stupid website. Why do they word the questions like that?
I don't know. You tell me.
I'm done. I'm sorry. I didn't think they'd word every question so dumb like that.
They were very misleading. I will say that. Well, Jared, let's discuss our segment a little more. I want to ask you, what are some of the disadvantages you can think of or that come to mind for you regarding learning a new language or learning another language?
Whenever you meet someone new and they find out that you're bilingual and they say something, I hate that.
You know what I usually do, and I'm sure it's I mean, you know me, I'm a pretty corny guy. Yeah, dude, I'm a pretty corny guy, so I'll just they'll say something in that language. So I'll say the German word for something, which is etwas. I need to learn that word in a bunch of languages.
Yeah,
and then just make people think I'm just this crazy polyglot.
Whoa.
Right? Be like, say something in this language, and then just keep saying something, and they don't realize it.
Right.
That'd
Can
be
you think of
pretty
any
clever.
disadvantages?
Oh yeah, dude. There's a couple. I made it sound like there's a ton, but there's a couple.
Of course.
One of them, I think one of the big disadvantages is, to be honest, man, money. You know, you and I have been very fortunate that we were able to go to a good school, got to study abroad. We've had all of these great opportunities to really learn and practice and use the language, right? But if you grow up, you know, not having a lot of money and not being able to afford college or afford studying abroad, you know, language classes can be really expensive. Private tutors can be really expensive. But one caveat I will say to this, there's always an upside to a downside. There's always a positive to a negative. And that positive is that nowadays we are fortunate that with the internet, there is so much you can learn on your own now. I'm not saying you'll become fluent just by Googling stuff and reading stuff online. But
it's a good start.
Absolutely, right. So that's my one disadvantage. My other, there's a couple other ones. Another obvious one, too, is if you already have a lot going on and you don't have a lot of free time, I think many people assume that you can just buy a Rosetta Stone language package and learn the language in like 5 weeks. And if you actually think about it, humans, when you and I were really speaking English at a good level, take a guess, Jared, how old we were. When we actually, I'm not saying could string along sentences. I mean really communicate in English.
Okay, so you're not saying it's not like some sort of trick and it's like 18 or something.
No, it's not. It's not necessarily a trick. No.
No, I see what you're saying though. 5, 6,
7, 6 or 7, I think, maybe even 8 for some kids. But yeah, so if it takes you 6, 7, 8 years to really develop a fluent proficiency in your native language,
when your brain's at its best,
right? And why do you think then that you're going to learn another language in 5 weeks, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think go ahead.
You mentioned that and the thing before about being fortunate. I want to say something about that. As I agree wholeheartedly with that because I think about that all the time. Especially, you know, I joke about my French being terrible. I took French for legitimately 7, 8 years.
Right.
When I lived in Michigan, and I was terrible at it. And the only reason that I really got good at German is because I didn't have another choice. Right. And all it really takes to begin is wanting to learn for sure.
Oh yeah, you need that motivation.
8 years, I clearly never really cared that much about learning.
Mm-hmm. Well,
you never found me reading books outside or listen to
French music
radio.
Or watching French TV. I agree with you, but I also have to say, I would be willing to bet money that you also probably didn't learn French that well because the class wasn't taught in a very communicative way, where you were really speaking and using the language every day.
Right. A lot of English.
Right. I feel like a lot of language classes are explaining grammar. So, like, if you take a French class, they explain the grammar of French to you in English, and maybe you do a little bit of speaking if you're lucky. But that's not going to get you fluent in a language. But there is one last disadvantage I want to leave our listeners with before we get on to our positives or the advantages of learning a language, which there are plenty. We could do probably an entire new podcast channel just called The Advantages of Language Learning. But anyways, one other advantage I can think of is best illustrated by a short little story or a couple sentences. And this really applies to you, Jared. So this is why I'm bringing this up. So here I found this really funny meme online that says there are 2 types of multilinguals. Type 1. Hey, do you want to know how to say octopus in Polish? Also, as a side note, don't ask me. I don't know. And 2, I swear to God, if you ask me one more time to translate something, I will kill you. Those are the 2 types of multilinguals. Which one do you think Jared makes me?
Well, yeah, I do enjoy stumping you.
Right. Jared consistently, whenever we walked around in Austria or even back in the United States, Jared would always.
Yeah, we talked in Albion too once, especially when we both found out we were going.
Yep.
We talked in. I said Albion, right?
Yeah, but it was just funny how often Jared would just test me. And there's a lot of words you don't realize you don't know in a foreign language until somebody really does put you on the spot like that. So I also got to thank you, Jared.
Especially since I'm not better than you, but I am definitely pretty good. So
definitely.
So it's not gonna. It's usually something a little weird where it's like it'd be like, why would I ever know this? But I'm mad that you're now making me say I don't.
Like,
know
why
this.
are you asking me to say windowsill in German? Like I'm not, like random things like that. Yeah, I agree. But I think it's also not even a matter of who's a better language speaker or anything. I think it's just also like wanting to have fun and also kind of testing each other. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, like, yeah, it did drive me crazy sometimes just because you would stump me a lot, but we learned a lot of really good German words from it.
Yeah, because then after we'd probably look them up.
Right. But I guess here, Jared, I got another disadvantage for you, though, about learning another language. Have you ever had where you're talking to somebody about something and you mention like, oh, there's this really good German word for that, or oh, there's this really good, whatever language. But then you're talking to somebody and then they go, oh, well, how do you say this in that language? And you just blank.
Yes.
That is the worst. So there's another disadvantage. You learn one language on top of another and they say bilingual and then it's like, yep, bilingual. You're forgetting all your languages.
Right. One of my coworkers now and especially this started happening more since because he was the one that told me about the German guy and said, hey, talk to this dude or whatever. But he every now and again he does work with countries all over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's actually in China right now. But one of he does a lot of work in Germany, especially car stuff and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he'll get like orders or stuff every now and again, he'll bring them to me. And he asked me, he's like, hey, what's this word? And it was Nebelschein. What's a Nebelschein? We're talking car parts.
Is it Nebelschein or Nabelschein?
Nebel.
Well, shine is usually a card or like your Führerschein.
Not that kind of shine. Not that kind of shine.
Oh, really? I don't know. I don't know what the word Nebel is.
Isn't it not fog?
Oh, Nebel. Fog lights. Then.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought. Okay, I misheard you. Okay, Nebelschein.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was a word where it's like that word has never crossed my mind.
But it makes sense.
Right. And they're having a couple where it's like I know that word, but not that one, so I'm gonna guess that this is what it means, but don't hold me to that.
Oh, definitely.
But I do. I whenever he does like ask me, I'm always like, all right, don't fuck this up. Get it right. Right.
Oh, for sure. I think it puts a lot of pressure on you, and then that's what kind of causes your mind to freeze
and I don't want
up.
him to. I don't want him to be like, this guy can't speak German.
Right. What a joke. Right. So, Jared, I want to know what are some advantages that you've experienced personally from learning another language?
Me personally. Because I was gonna start you with a scientific one.
Okay, let's get scientific.
Is that it is proven to improve your cognitive skills, and it's proven to reduce chances of getting Alzheimer's in older ages, and it's supposed to reduce the chances of tissue and tissue breaking down in your brain as you get older, because it keeps your mind active.
That makes sense. I've also heard that if you speak another language, it's also way easier to learn another one on top of that. So I could see how your cognitive function maybe is a little higher. Maybe it's easier to learn that other language. I also think too, the more languages you learn, you kind of have this huge pool of random vocabulary and things that you can pull from. I often joke with my German students and say, if you don't know what a word is, try to think of how an English person would say it with a German accent. And half the time the words are right. Not always, but half the time.
Well, say an English person would say it with a German accent.
Well, yeah, like think of an English word with a German accent, right? Like
like Gesundheit?
No, I'm talking about like Like the word supermarket in German, like you say it with a German
Oh,
accent,
oh.
Supermarket.
Right,
Like
right,
it's
right.
not perfect, but the German
see what
word
you're
is
saying.
Supermarkt.
Yeah.
So it's close, right? So
Yeah.
there are some words you can get away with that, right? So when you learn a lot of languages, you have even more of those kind of words where you can pull from.
Right. And you start probably noticing more patterns and
Right.
and all that stuff. Especially if you say start with Spanish, then learn Italian, then Portuguese, and French. It's
Oh,
like those are
absolutely.
all, have such a connection to them. That's like, the word sentence structures are similar. It's like, oh, this is starting to come together a little bit.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely.
Now it's just learning. Essentially, it's just learning more vocabulary,
Right.
and I'm already good at doing that.
Yeah, you are.
Not me personally, just one.
What are some other benefits or advantages?
Some more benefits or advantages. You know what? The reason I'm hesitating right now because I'm actually looking through. I made I'll tell you a benefit. When I was in summer school for my business program, we had a communication class, and we had to give a persuasive speech, and mine was on why everyone in our business program should learn a foreign language, why they should be required to.
Okay. What'd you
And
say?
and so I gave it from the angle of how useful it is in business and how useful it is because I will say this one.
Can you give me
personal
some
benefit-
examples?
A personal benefit I think it has is that it looks great on my resume to say that I'm fluent in German.
Sure.
Even
I
if
agree.
I never use it, I still think it looks great.
I'm trying to get that intermediate level check on my resume, my man.
I don't even know what that means.
Intermediate level check. That would mean I can speak Czech.
Oh. I thought you meant check as in check mark.
Nope, Czech is in the language, but yeah, I gotcha.
I gotcha. Okay. And I think it's also a great icebreaker, especially if you happen to run into someone that does speak German as well. I've definitely met
or any
random
language.
people.
Right, like remember when you and I were walking home from the bar that one night? We were speaking German, and that girl behind us was like,
yeah,
"Sprechen
yeah.
Sie Deutsch" or something, and then we started talking
Yeah.
to her.
Well, there's an example of that. I've definitely met random people like that before. I was just like, "Hey, you speaking German?" I almost did it to someone because at the airport when I was going to New Orleans, there was a dude. It looked like he was around my age that was speaking German, and it was I understood it was simple stuff like where are we meeting, where do you want to? But I was gonna say something to him, but I was like, I'm not gonna break my rule on speaking to people in the airport for this.
Right.
So I let it go. But yeah, it definitely has helped me with that. That's been a nice little bonus.
Right.
What about you? Do you have any? Can you tell me? Give me one.
Oh, there's
how is
a
it?
ton. I mean, I think just the idea of different concepts and ideas that are foreign to your own culture, right? Like in English, we don't really have a word for Schweinehund or Gemütlichkeit. I mean, we have words we can translate to, but it's not the same as really learning the
Like when
word
you
in its
said
true context.
It made. I was like, yeah. Okay. I was like, when you were explaining to me, I was like, yeah, I guess I get it. But I was like, oh, now that I'm putting it together, I see how that word makes more sense.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. And there's just been so many advantages too, like being able, just the obvious ones, right? Like, advantage or disadvantage, like being able to understand people when you're around them and they think you don't, but they're talking about you, right?
Yeah.
I love being in Germany or Austria, or any German-speaking country with Americans, and if we're speaking English, people automatically assume I can't speak or understand German. And so
Right,
it's
right.
But I've heard some people say some pretty rude shit. Like,
Dude, I was actually I was talking to one of my friends today, and she was telling me about she was in Spain at the airport, and she's American, but she's Hispanic, so she speaks. I don't know exactly where she's from, but she speaks Spanish, and at the airport. Now I don't know what the cousin was doing. Let me clarify, but I love how I'm like sticking up for this woman already. But the woman that was working behind the desk in Spanish to her coworker called her a stupid white bitch.
oh,
And the lady was like, "Hey, could you go get your manager, please?" And the person obviously had that look on their face, like, "Ooh."
right. I mean,
But also
yeah.
that was extra bold because she was in Spain at an airport, It's like you gotta assume that people there can speak Spanish, even if it's not the person you're listening. Like
Right.
you also are taking a chance that someone around you is not going to be like, yeah, not cool.
Right. Well, have I ever told you the funny story about my cousin when we were shopping? So I was with one of my cousins, and she's from Germany, and we were at either like Abercrombie or Hollister because they don't really have those stores in Germany, and they wanted to get some stuff. Yeah, they do.
And American Eagle too.
Yep. And so we went in there, and she picks up some clothes, and we're going to the checkout line, and she says she speaks like flawless English, dude. It's like funny. She's so shy about it, but like her English is so good. And so she goes up to the counter, and the guy, I'm kind of helping like communicate and everything. And she says before she leaves to my aunt and to me, she goes, er ist ziemlich hübsch. He's pretty cute. He's kind of cute. And as they're leaving, the guy behind the counter goes, "Tschüss." And so he says goodbye to him in Germany. So like in German, and so they just assumed he didn't, know German, which I think is usually kind of a fair assumption if you're in America, right? Like,
yeah.
And so
it's also a cute mistake when it's something flattering.
Right. If it's something innocuous or even like a compliment, that's nice. But I'll never forget. I was actually in Nazil's one night in Vienna. This was second semester, so sadly Jared wasn't with me anymore. But we were there, and I was with my roommates who didn't speak very good German, and I heard these dudes in the back talking shit about us, and I don't even remember what I said, but I said something to them. I said something like, just because they're speaking another language doesn't mean that that they're any less than you, or something like that. I don't even remember.
That's such a Chad thing to say. That's so nice.
Well, I just trying to make sure everybody's having a good time.
You stood up for your friends, but it was in the nicest way possible.
Right, and that's a really big thing. I think a big advantage of learning a language is when you can stand up for yourself. I feel like a lot of people can get swindled just because people think, oh, well, I can take advantage of you because you're not from here. You don't know the language. You don't know how things work.
That happened to me when I lived in Germany.
Really?
Although it didn't happen to me specifically, but it did. But it was a group of our friends who were on the train coming home from school, and actually, now that I think about it, a good number of those friends were legitimate, just straight up German, like from Germany Germans. But we were all speaking English, and most of them, their English is so good that they don't even have a German accent when they speak English. And so I think they were talking just general shit about Americans and how stupid we were or something like that. But I wasn't even listening. But Nick, my buddy, was, and when he got off the train, he like said something in German to him, and they had that look of shock on their face.
Right.
I mean it's that's like the foreign language version of talking shit on the internet. It's like, it's real easy to talk shit when you don't think they know what you're talking about.
That's true.
And then once you're faced with it, you have nothing to say.
Oh, for sure. Well, yeah, because and it just shows how it's just not good. I would say another
cowards,
right? Feiglinge. Yeah,
sounds better that way.
Right. But yeah, so another big thing, though, I think with a big advantage of learning a language, like I mentioned, was, just having like a different understanding and perspective of the world, of yourself, of your home country. I think that's a big advantage because I think it's very easy to get kind of dragged down the wrong path if you are too introverted and you're not self-critical at all. So I think learning a language can also really, I think, make you think a lot differently, and it opens up a lot of doors to other cultures and a lot of, just interesting conversations and experiences. Yeah, go ahead.
That's another thing that I've learned through like the Untranslatables is, you can't really, I'm not saying you can understand someone's culture just by the language, but you can get an idea for it.
You can get a little taste, I think, definitely.
Yeah. And so I had some examples, but I'll just forget it because it's just more stereotypes at this point.
Okay.
I don't want to. I'll save that for a different episode.
I would say too, though, another big benefit too, or an advantage, is being able to go between both languages. Right. There's so many ways you can communicate things kind of cross culturally with people, right? Like when we were talking earlier this episode, and I said, yeah, that was probably pretty gemütlich. And you and I can say that to you because we both know what that means.
Yeah, exactly.
And you remember what that's called, Jared?
Gemütlich?
No. When you switch between back and forth between languages.
Well, maybe, because that was actually going to be the next thing that I said to you, was because another scientific one is that it improves your multitasking skills, especially when you learn as a child. Mm-hmm. And that ability to switch back and forth translates. And they called it juggling.
Okay.
But I don't think that's what you were about to say.
Well, I was going to say, oh, shoot. No,
switching back and forth.
Yeah, thank you. Code switching. I had a.
Oh, right. Code switching.
Code switching.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Right. Like. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Like, one of my favorite things is I play soccer. Excuse me. I play soccer with some of these guys who are from Guatemala and Mexico and Argentina. And, I mean, first of all, man, they're fantastic soccer players. But, two, it's funny to watch them code switch because there's so many guys out on the field who speak Spanish. So they use it with them. I'm like the only gringo usually actually on the field. And then we have, I think, 3 or 4 African guys that will come play. But it's just so funny because they just switch back and forth so easily and so smoothly. And I know enough Spanish where I can occasionally like kind of say something here and there. And like they crack up when I do because they're like, yeah, like the gringo gets it. Like it's just kind of cool, you know? Like it's cool to be a part of something like that.
Oh yeah, and I think that goes with the multitasking because to be able to, obviously, when you're running and trying to figure out what you're going to do in the game of soccer, to also then be aware of, okay, this is someone that I could speak Spanish to, say this. Right. Or this is someone I should speak English to, say, that.
Right, exactly.
In that moment, I think it's tougher than one might think.
Right, but it's really amazing how fast I think people are able to make those judgment calls. But I do have to say...
Actually, yeah, I think when I played soccer in Germany, I think I got used to that, where even when I was like playing in a game, to my German-speaking friends, I might speak German, then to like my English-speaking friends, I think I could do. Yeah, it takes some time, but I think I could do it too.
But I gotta say this, Jared. Although code switching is great for a lot of people, for some people it can be really stressful, which leads us to our song of the pod this week.
Yes, it does.
So our song of the pod this week, for all of our listeners out there, is called Denglish by the Wise Guys. And for those of you who don't know, Denglish is a combination of the words Deutsch, which means German in German, Deutsch, and English, which obviously means English. And so this song has a lot of funny code switching scenarios in it. I believe it's all a cappella, isn't it, Jared?
That was going to be my first question for you. You recommended it,
yes.
So I listened to it a couple times, but that was the first time I heard of it. And that was going to be my first question. I was like, are they going full a cappella?
I'm pretty sure it is. At least I know there is a version on Spotify that is pure a cappella.
Okay. This one sounded like it was that version, the one you sent me.
Okay. But yeah, so what were your takeaways from the song, Jared? You said you listened to it a few times.
Right. It was it almost like it had like a nice little message to it. Mm-hmm. But it did almost kind of seem like a jokey song, and maybe that was just the delivery and the fact that it was a cappella or something. Mm-hmm. But it was very fun. Like was there any sort of specific pattern or rhyme to why they rhyme or reason to why they chose English or German for the line?
Absolutely. Well, there is a reason. Well, first of all, though, I'd like to add that I agree with you. The a cappella vibe definitely does give it more of a jokey, funny kind of vibe. Although I love a cappella music, and I have to really hand it to the Wise Guys because those guys can sing and they can harmonize and they're great. But anyways,
yeah, it's definitely good.
Yeah, it's worth a listen or two for sure. But I think
it's not something I'd like listen to on like my especially the a cappella version, like on my iPod or something.
I actually listen to it quite a bit.
When you're working out, could you listen to that
I
song?
do. This is my
Oh, could you really?
This is not workout music, no. If I want German workout music, it's going to be Rammstein.
Of course.
It's going to be heavy metal Rammstein. But no, so this song though, I think they picked Denglish because well, one, a lot of the English words they use are words that have basically become anglicized in the German language. So there are a lot of English words now. You'll see checkpoint all over Germany.
See, now I need to go back and listen to it closer now
Okay.
that I know that.
Well, here, why don't we I'll pull up the lyrics real quick, and let's talk about the lyrics for a minute, and then.
Okay, great.
Denglish. And this.
But yes,
I've used this actually in German classes, so I had it it popped right up.
Okay. Let Chad bring up his syllabus.
Okay, so he started with, "O Herr, bitte gib mir meine Sprache zurück." So like, "Oh Lord, please give me back my language." I'm longing for peace and a little piece of happiness. Let us understand a word in these difficult times. Open our hearts and make our brains wider, is what he says.
By
first,
the way, notice his use of this going back to our other episode about English. His use of peace and peace in the same sentence.
Mm-hmm. Right.
2 different pieces.
Exactly.
Weren't
Yeah. Peace,
Yeah.
Peace. Yep. And then a little piece of happiness. Yes.
Pronounced the same, spelled differently, completely different meaning.
Yep. Absolutely. Good call. Good ear. Although in German, those are 2 completely different words, and you wouldn't confuse them. Frieden and Stückchen.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You wouldn't.
Oh, were you translating?
Yeah,
something?
I was translating the lyrics.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't know that. I thought that happened to be. Oh, okay.
Nope. Yeah. So then
I
he
don't have
says,
it in front of me.
I ran to the train station, and then he said, "and war a little bit too late." So he put English there. Auf meiner neuen Swatch war schon kurz vor after 8. So he's
And
playing
it's
with.
interesting that he does it with var because that word is at least syllable wise, like it doesn't really affect the flow of the song whether you say was or var.
Right. True. That is true. I think it's because if you look, a lot of these words are towards the end of the sentence. A little bit too late, after 8. Doch ich fand nur ein McLean. He's talking about a toilet. This whole thing is just talking about how they use English for kind of like advertising purposes. I feel like in Germany it kind of adds like this kind of weird cool factor, which I don't get. Like they'll use words that they already have in German. You know, if they didn't have these words in German, I would get it. But they had they had checkpoints before they called them checkpoints. Or one of my favorite examples is there was this restaurant I saw in Munich that was advertising carryout food, right? I think it was like a Chinese or a Thai place in Munich, and they said Essen zum away taken.
Which
is hilarious because it's like they have the verb mitnehmen, which means like to take with, and if you're in a restaurant, the waiter might even ask you like zu mitnehmen.
Right.
You know,
right.
so it's
I've
not
heard
like
that
they
before.
don't have the words,
and they changed take to taken.
Yeah, so
To
they
make it-
make
to
it a German.
conjugate
Yeah,
an English
exactly, exactly. So yeah, but this whole song is all about basically like for people who don't, I think, completely understand the other language, or even just are scared of the kind of intrusion of the English into the German language. It's kind of a reaction, right?
Right.
Which I think is great. It's really funny.
But I understand like the cool factor thing because like in Japan especially, like they have a lot of their Japanese cars and they have completely different names than they have in the American markets. And the American markets get like letters and numbers like 350Z,
Right.
M35. When you go there, it'll be like Fair Lady or like the Central. I can't think of one, but like the makeup.
Right, I
The
know
Fair
what you
Lady is
mean.
real.
Yeah.
But like the Rising Star or like the Cosmo, but they would never call it like. But they're like, no one would buy that in America. But like
Right.
the English names are almost like a fancy and because I mean they are. It's like how we think like British accents are fancy and
Right.
classy.
Right.
Just because it's foreign.
It's very
And
true.
it's like it's English is Americans we're foreign to other people.
I think a lot of Americans don't realize that, but I would agree.
I think I
Absolutely.
forget that sometimes
So
too. To be
yeah,
honest with you.
but yeah. So everybody out there, please check out our song of the pod, "Denglish" by the Wise Guys. It is a classic. You'll learn a lot of cool German words. You'll also learn some English words that are becoming a common part of the German language.
I'll post it on Twitter.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Find it
For our millions of followers out there, so they can learn some new Denglish.
right. Maybe we'll really give these guys a boost in their career.
That's
that
right.
They've been looking for.
Well, Jared, you know what time it is. It's time for some jokes. What untranslatable podcast episode would this be without a couple jokes? So I got a few for you, and thankfully I have made these all questions for you, so you can be a part of it. So here we go. Which country's capital has the fastest growing population? Remember, this isn't a real one. This is a joke.
Right. At first, halfway through, when I started thinking, I was like, nope, this is a joke. But is it still a real place?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know.
So the joke was, which country's capital has the fastest growing population? The answer, Jared, is Ireland. Every day, it's Dublin. You like that?
Good.
Every day it's
That's
Dublin.
pretty good.
Because like the
That
city's
sounds like
named
something
Dublin
like-
and doubling, yeah.
That sounds like something that Irish bros would say when they hit the bar.
Every day it's Dublin. Right. That'd be funny. Yeah, dude, I could so see that now. You're right. They're like about to like paint the town red and
Right.
yeah, I can't even do an Irish accent, so I won't. But yeah.
I want to, but I really don't want to butcher another
That's
accent.
fair. All right, so
I want to try to say this so bad.
I'll give you another one though, Jared. You might even know this one. What's the difference between a hippo and a zippo? What's the difference between a hippo and a zippo?
One, you don't want to fire when they fart. I don't know.
Nope. A hippo is really heavy, and a zippo is a little lighter.
Okay, that's a good one.
Right? Kind of clever.
Zippo was an odd choice for a lighter, but I guess you can't say like Bic lighter.
Right.
It doesn't have the same
right.
flow to it.
I mean, Zippo, I think, is probably the only word you could even use in that joke to get the right punchline. But anyways,
Right, but it does sound good.
Anyways, I
Hippo
got
and
two
Zippo.
more for you.
Okay.
What do you call a lazy baby kangaroo?
Joey is a baby kangaroo.
Yeah, no, that's not gonna help you.
Okay.
What do you call a lazy kangaroo? A pouch potato.
Oh, that's good. I like
Right,
that one.
like a couch potato, but a pouch because the baby's
I
staying
like
in
that
mama's
one.
pouch.
I like that one.
Right. All right, I got one last one for you, Jared.
Man, and I so thought I was on the right path with that Joey
Nope.
line of thinking too.
I'll have to try to make a Joey joke now for you, Jared. What can I say? All right, Jared, my last one for you tonight. What did the man say after he had a brain transplant? What did the man say after he had a brain transplant? Ooh.
Did he kill himself?
Nope. He said, I wasn't going to do it, but then I changed my mind.
Okay. I
right.
That-
Changed
you know what?
my mind.
like that. You know, obviously I don't laugh now, but if like I were a surgeon, and
That
like,
for sure would be a good surgeon joke.
yeah.
a doubt.
Or I was gonna say if I was a surgeon and like the person I just worked on just woke up, and they're like, oh man, I'm glad I did this. I didn't want to, but I changed my mind. And they like,
Right.
And
Dude,
the
that would be
surgeon's
so
like,
funny.
"Mike."
Just rattling off puns right after brain surgery. Can you even imagine?
All
All right. Well, Jared, I wanted to do something a little new this episode. So I have a quote for us to end our pod. And my quote is by a guy who is very, very famous. I don't know if you've heard of him before, Jared, but he is, his name is Wittgenstein. Does that name say anything to you?
I don't believe so.
So Ludwig Wittgenstein was an Austrian-British philosopher who worked primarily in logic and the philosophy of mathematics and the philosophy of the mind. And his quote, which we are ending our pod with tonight, is, Die Grenzen meiner Sprache bedeuten die Grenzen meiner Welt. Can you translate that for me, Jared? Die Grenzen meiner
interesting.
Sprachen bedeuten die Grenzen meiner Welt.
The borders of my language. What was the word after that?
Bedeuten.
Okay, yeah. The borders of my language mean the borders of my world.
And
So it's-
you could
or
also
like-
translate it to boundaries, too. The boundaries of my
right.
language.
That's a better word.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's a better word. Which is essentially saying once I stop learning, I mean that makes sense though. Like once you stop learning languages, you essentially, he's saying you stop learning.
Mm-hmm.
You stop learning words. You stop learning about people. You stop learning.
Yeah, you stop learning a lot about, the entire world around you, right? Language is so, it's just such a major part of our daily lives, the culture we live in, the media we like, the music we like, everything. Yeah, I do truly, I love this quote because I really believe it. I think that the boundaries of what we know with our languages really do mean the boundaries of our world, right? If we don't have a word to describe something, how can we describe it, right?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
A lot of if you look at older literature and you look at the way they describe things based on color, if you look at really early texts, they don't use the word blue. Now, did the color blue not exist? Of course it existed, but they didn't have a word for it at the time. Isn't that crazy to think about?
Right.
Just because you don't have a word just because blue exists, but I think it was either Homer who wrote in the Odyssey, I think he wrote something like the red wine sea. Obviously, sea is not the color of red wine, but if you don't know the word for blue or don't have a word to describe that, then you describe it in a different way.
Right.
So it changes, I think, the way we view the world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. There was I'm not going to remember this quote exactly, but I believe it was from, I'm not going to remember it at all, to be honest with you. But I believe it was from the movie where they say, "Oh, Captain, my Captain." Dead Poets Society.
Dead Poets Society with Robin Williams. Great movie.
He has a little monologue in there where he talks about how not to say, you don't say very tired, you say exhausted. Right. You don't say, it's like, and
use your words to woo women is what he says, right?
I think he ends it with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, but yeah, he was essentially saying that there's so much more to language and understanding what it means, like what life means by understanding new words and new meanings for things when you learn new words, essentially.
Absolutely, Jared. And so with that, I would like to say, woo not only women with your language, but woo everybody. I hope all of our listeners out there are learning some new untranslatables. And we thank you all so much for listening to us. We would really appreciate it if you followed us or subscribed on Instagram at Untranslatable Podcast. Check us out on Twitter at Untranslatable1. And don't forget to send us an email at untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com.